Can there be anything more British than the love of adrenaline?
Rolling now.
Determination in the face of adversity,
That is not show standard.
which epitomizes the RAF.
Just brilliant to watch. It never gets tiring.
Over the course of their action-packed summer season, we'll be flying with Britain's ultimate pilots. The Red Arrows. With their fellow display teams, the Typhoon jets, the Chinook helicopter, and the Hurricanes and Spitfires. We're going inside the bubble to chart the courage it takes to pull off the most famous flying experience in the world. With the display season in full swing, the Red Arrows are setting their sights on Britain's biggest single public coastal event, the high-profile Bournemouth Air Festival. But will the unpredictable British weather prevent them from turning the skies red, white and blue and keep the crowds away?
If the weather stays like it's here, then clearly the shows might not go ahead.
Quite frustrating when we put a lot of effort into training throughout the winter. 11 displays we've lost this year now.
We're joining the RAF's Typhoon display team as they prepare a demanding finale to the Bournemouth weekend. Despite battling an uncooperative locked cockpit,
Problems we need to go inside to adjust it.
a small missing part that causes big headaches,
If this system does not get sorted out, there will be no display this weekend.
all of which could put an end to them stealing the show from the Red Arrows. But when the team receives the most shocking news of the display season,
Yeah, as we expect, that's us stuck.
will their training and experience be enough to pull them through? Entertaining the crowds alongside the Red Arrows at the Bournemouth Air Festival will be Flight Lieutenant Johnny Dowen. He also flies a fast jet, but it's not painted red. He doesn't fly in formation, and he doesn't need smoke to make patterns in the sky. He flies the 1,500 mile-per-hour supersonic monster of the Air Force, the Typhoon fighter, one of the most physically demanding planes in the RAF's arsenal. Capable of going from brakes off to Mach 1.5 in 90 seconds, it will give any fast jet a run for its money. The display arena is the perfect place to showcase the Typhoon's might. But it's the job it does 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, which has made it a vital asset to this country's security.
Quick reaction alerts. We've got the jets 365 days a year, both here and up at Lossy, ready to go, and essentially responsible for defence of the UK's airspace.
Ready to scramble at a moment's notice, the Quick Reaction Alert Base at Coningsby is made up of 2 frontline squadrons, 50 combat-ready jets, 60 pilots, and 500 ground crew, all in place for one reason: to protect us from aerial threat.
All the guys that come through, one of the very first disciplines they'll learn is how to sit QRA.
In this practice, the pilots and ground crew are poised, ready to go, and the Typhoon will be airborne within minutes to intercept any unknown aircraft. Once in the sky, these 2 fully armed jets could be over London in a matter of minutes, ready to deal with any possible threat. In most cases, the target aircraft turns out to be innocent enough and may have just flown into difficulty or unknowingly strayed into restricted airspace. In such instances, they are escorted to the nearest nominated airfield. As well as being a guardian of our skies, Johnny trains other pilots to fly the mighty Typhoon. But this summer he's been given a new challenge: to amaze the British public with his super-fast jet. And such feats grow from straightforward beginnings.
For the design sequence, One of the really nice things actually about it is the fact that each year the display pilot who comes in will get to design from scratch his own sequence. It literally was as simple as having a sort of an overall concept of what I wanted to put across, even to the extent of, you know, just sitting down and watching YouTube videos of past Typhoon displays, other sort of F-Jet displays, etc. And then with that in mind, I'll sit down with a bit of paper and draw it out, essentially, what I think is going to flow nicely, what I think is going to look good from the ground. And then once I've got that sort of rough sequence put together, I'll then go down to the simulator to see how it actually works. And inevitably that throws up a few issues and then necessitates design changes, etc.
In order to stress test his complex moves and how his jet will handle them, Johnny's plans are meticulously examined in what looks like the best computer game ever. The simulator, a multi-million-pound training device that allows pilots to mimic an astounding variety of flying conditions.
So the sim we're about to go into is one of our essentially dome visuals, so we've got 360-degree visuals, which is really good in terms of just going to practice a display quickly, either for a currency trip back at Coningsby or for going into Bournemouth, because we can just, you know, pick up the jet, move it to wherever we want in the country. Right, let's head on in.
With his safety and that of his 60 million pound jet on the line, Johnny is able to practice above a simulated Bournemouth. This 21st century training tool allows pilots to mimic an astounding variety of weather conditions, environments, and training scenarios.
Thanks, Matt. Do you want me to get airborne and get to the clear positions for Bournemouth?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Cool.
Thanks, Matt.
You often find it'll end up with a little bit of a breeze at coastal sites. Not always, but you know, the worst one for us is going to be an on-crowd wind. So a wind that's trying to push us onto the crowd, which can be quite challenging, certainly if it's quite strong. This just gives you something else to think about in terms of your timings, how you adjust your lines, etc., so that you don't have to go through 230-metre line, or certainly not over the crowd line.
230 meters is the closest Johnny is allowed to get to the crowd during his display. Minimizing the risk to the public is everything here. Any infringement of that line could result in the display being terminated. Paper planning done, simulator stress testing completed. Now, up into the skies for the real rehearsal.
A little bit of a breeze, a little bit of an on-crowd, but there's next to no weather. I'm in.
Today marks the last chance Johnny has to practice those gravity-defying moves prior to the Bournemouth Air Festival, just 3 weeks away.
Cheers, Adam.
Cheers, sir.
Yes, it should be a full, just a reasonable breeze.
If the pressure wasn't high enough, his whole family have come along to watch the final practice.
My parents, also Ness, my fiance, and 2 kids. That'll be the first time they've seen the display, which will be nice.
Haven't seen his display yet. He showed me with his hands and the little plane, but so I have a little idea, but no, I haven't seen anything. Because he's gonna take off.
Take off, clear display, wind 24009.
If Johnny doesn't nail it now, he won't have another chance before he's set to give the all-important show in Bournemouth a stunning finale. Down on the ground, his pilot father, Paul, watches his every move.
He always had a strong interest in aircraft right from an early age. When I was doing my flying training, he'd come flying with me. He had his first flying lesson in the States at 10 years old, straight away. And the instructor said he was a natural, shows there was something there.
Johnny is a natural. His eye for detail and all-out dedication makes him the obvious choice for a display pilot. He has put his all into making this 8-minute display the best the South Coast crowds will see. One of the most skillful moves is the 4-point hesitation roll, where Johnny puts the aircraft through 360 degrees, hesitating at each 90-degree interval for 2 seconds. To fully understand what is involved in this complex maneuver, we can go inside the cockpit with Johnny. To hold the jet at each 90-degree position requires a crucial combination of hand, feet, and eye coordination. As Johnny progresses through the role, the difficulty increases sharply. Johnny is now fully inverted and is literally hanging in his straps, experiencing -1G. He has to constantly battle the jet's flight control system, which is trying to counter his every command. This is because the Typhoon has been designed and built for combat, not wowing the public with challenging aerobatics. Wheels safely back on the ground, everyone can breathe a sigh of relief.
Every time he's coming down low, you're thinking, pull up, you know, so, because you always got that feeling, you know, there's always a sense of danger, obviously.
Displaying the Typhoon puts incredible strain on its airframe. Here at Coningsby, a team of 500 ground crew carry out the vital work of keeping the jets ready to protect our skies 24 hours a day. And it's the same for the display teams with their punishing schedules. For instance, the Red Arrows need 9 fully serviced jets ready to thrill the public in the 83 displays planned for the summer. It's the job of Wing Commander Martin Higgins to ensure that everything runs like clockwork, both inside and outside the cockpit.
There are 134 people on the squadron, and we need every single one of those to produce the show on a daily basis. It's not just the 9 pilots that the public see. I understand what pressures the engineers face, especially the circus who follow the team around. When the pilots finish at the end of the day, the circus will have to make sure the aeroplanes are good to go for the following day.
Johnny may only need 1 jet to perform his breathtaking display, but unlike the Red Arrows, his jet is also required to perform a day job when it's not away at the weekend. At 29 Squadron, it's just one of the 20 other Typhoons being used for the training of the next generation of fast jet pilots. This puts extra pressure on the engineers, who not only have to keep it flying during the training week, but then also ensure it is ready to wow the crowds at every display weekend. With only 16 hours until Johnny is due to depart for Bournemouth, his jet arrives back. But there's a problem, and it's big. It's reporting a fault with the air brake. Engineer Sergeant Chris Eaton, also known as Stan, is on the late shift. It's his responsibility to oversee the work. The clock is ticking. The pressure is on to get it fixed in time.
If this system does not get sorted out, there will be no display this weekend on this aircraft itself. It's imperative that it has an air brake for this flight. How's it going?
On closer inspection, Stan discovers the source of the trouble. The air brake switch on the throttle control has stopped working. Time is against them. They must remove the faulty part and fit a new one. But on removing the faulty unit, disaster strikes.
We've got a potential major problem now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's what's basically happened is there's a switch that is not working for the air brake that is now missing the top of the switch, and it's inside the cockpit somewhere. So we have now got to find that switch top, otherwise the aircraft really is not going anywhere at all. I'll have a quick look for it now.
With only 14 hours before takeoff, the team don't have the time to be looking for a missing part.
Right guys, we could be ages here.
If they don't find it, the aircraft will not be allowed to take off, and Johnny won't be displaying this jet.
It can be like a needle in a haystack, to be honest. Sometimes we're looking for very small items, indeed, in what looks like a small cockpit, but in fact it's quite a large cockpit when you're trying to find things. It's got to have gone to the back. Oh, this is it. It's got to be there.
If the part remains hidden, the team will have to start the painstaking job of stripping out sections of the cockpit.
Oh dear.
At this late stage, a job that big will prevent the jet from ever making it to Bournemouth on time.
It's there. I think I've got it.
Where?
I think it is. I've got it.
Now the look.
Yeah.
You got it, Stan?
Got it. Yeah, just a case of recovering it now. It's stuck right behind the ejection seat handle. It's just a case now, I think the armourers have to take part of the seat out, and it's just a case of retrieving it and then carry on as normal.
Given that the ejector seat contains explosives, this job is no simple task. Only specially trained armourers are authorized to remove any of the seat's components. Tricky work, especially when you're under pressure.
So that's why we had to get out there. Yeah, put this back in.
With the rogue part finally recovered, in goes the seat just in the nick of time, as Stan arrives back with the new throttle control. Despite the pressure, fitting the new component is a straightforward task for these experts.
Done.
And with safety uppermost in the mind, they finish off with a full test of the system.
Got the air brake switch, Fletch. Sweet. What could have been a disastrous job has been saved, actually. Yeah, so luckily we found the missing part, and the aircraft will make the display tomorrow.
With that challenge face down, the team hopes that the big day at Bournemouth will run smoothly. It's the morning of departure, and whilst the Typhoon sits at the ready, Johnny makes his final preparations for a weekend of South Coast displays.
This weekend should be great. I mean, it's probably the biggest one on the South Coast. It is huge, just Bournemouth of itself. But then we've also got Dawlish a little bit further down the coast as well, which is relatively local to home for me. So that'll be nice. And then Shoreham as well on the Sunday.
The pressure is on for Johnny. 5 displays in one weekend, including the huge finale at Bournemouth. There's no turning back. The paperwork's filed and the training's completed. He's off to meet the British public, and only then will he know if his hard work has paid off. Capable of reaching speeds in excess of 1,500 miles per hour, if Johnny was to travel this fast, he'd be over Bournemouth in less than 10 minutes. The weekend is well underway, and the beach is packed. The crowds are expectant. Thousands want to see some awesome aerial displays.
This is our 4th time we've been. It's really good, we like it. It's just a good fun day out.
Just love it.
Unlike Johnny at Bournemouth, the Red Arrows have decided to base themselves out of Exeter Airport. It gives them the best location for the wide variety of shows they need to pack into this one huge weekend. However, bad weather has dogged the Reds all week. The engineering team, the Blues, led by Flight Lieutenant Marcus Ramsden, are feeling the tension.
Unfortunately, it's not gone to plans so far. We've had 4 displays that we've had to cancel. The weather's not looking favourable yet again. It changes hour by hour. Not the standard week for us, lots of chopping and changing, but at the moment the jets are in a good place and we'll see what today brings.
2 days of being grounded is sapping morale amongst the Reds.
Having missed 4 shows in the last 2 days, we are very, very keen to try and get them in, but ultimately, I mean, if the weather stays like it's here, then clearly the shows that are close to here might not go ahead, unfortunately.
In contrast to Exeter, Johnny touches down at a sunny Bournemouth airport to be met by the rest of his team. As always, time is of the essence. The ground crew have 5 hours to turn around Johnny's jet ahead of this afternoon's first display. Joining Johnny and the Red Arrows at the festival will be the RAF's Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, or BBMF for short. They're welcoming their newest Spitfire recruit, Station Commander Jez Attridge, who's arriving from Coningsby in the Chipmunk. Sadly, hopes of flying in his first public display in a Spitfire are about to be shattered by Wing Commander Justin Helliwell, or Hells.
Hello. The weather was going to be bad. It is, unfortunately.
Sunny Bournemouth.
Sunny Bournemouth. That wind's a bit cheeky though.
Is it?
Yeah.
Could be out crosswind limits.
I think it might be just outside your limits. It's been gusting up to sort of 14, 15.
So you're laughing, I'm crying.
I am absolutely laughing. I'm so pleased to be here.
Being new to the Spitfire, there are tighter restrictions and safety concerns for Jez. He has a crosswind limit of 10 knots, and he is not allowed to take off or land if the wind is outside these limits.
As a newbie on the Spitfire, then I'm restricted to 10 knots. And they could be quite cheeky, so I'm not going to push that one, that's fine. And in the Second World War, they had these big grass airfields, and they would literally take off into wind. They'd just adjust where the runway was into wind. Modern aeroplanes with a nose wheel at the front, it doesn't have a crosswind problem anymore. You know, a Typhoon's got a crosswind limit of around about 30 knots. We very much live by the rules with these airplanes, just to absolutely make sure they're here in 100 years' time to keep displaying them. It just so happens today we've got a crosswind I've got a crosswind problem. But fingers crossed for tomorrow.
With just a few hours until his display, Johnny's relentless schedule continues. He must head to the beach to meet and greet the public. A big part of any display pilot's life is being the face of the RAF. Unlike his display, Johnny's still perfecting this side of the job.
Only a few months ago, I was doing a job that tens of other people do on the same squadron. So when you have that sort of intense interest, it just takes a little while to get used to, because you think, well, what I do isn't that. I mean, yes, it is unique, but it's just a little bit surreal. It's sort of quite humbling in a way. At no point during the whole season have I become totally used to it, in the sense that you just take it for granted. You know, it is still amazing just how many people want to come and talk.
Back with the BBMF, and Hells has taken over Jez's seat in the 1944 Mark IX Spitfire. This aircraft completed an astonishing 60 operational sorties over occupied France in the run-up to D-Day. Alongside him is squadron leader Dunk Mason, flying the last ever Hurricane to roll off the production line in 1944. An impressive duo.
Look at it, right across the runway. This is an old World War II airfield. It's actually got all the superstructure for 6 runways. What I needed them to do was invest in it for the last 70 years so that I could fly today.
A disappointed Jez can't resist seeing the boys off. Kicking off today's extravaganza at Bournemouth are the Spitfires and Hurricanes of the BBMF. Bournemouth Air Festival is huge. Over 4 days, it will showcase 50 air displays by 15 different display teams and attract over 1 million visitors to its shores. It's therefore no surprise that this is one of the biggest displays of the year for both the pilots and the public. It's also a chance for the public to meet their flying heroes and get that much-cherished photo and autograph.
There we go.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's that human element, I guess. It's just important for us to chat about what it is we do.
Thank you.
It's all right. The setup we've got here, it's not just about what I do, it's all of the other stuff as well. So engineers, admin, all sorts of people that come and work on the trailer. It's good because it just shows how much we have to offer as a force, as opposed to it just being a one-man band type thing, which it's not. And ultimately, I think everyone wants to come and say hello and find out a little bit more.
Johnny may have his public relations hat on, but inside his head, he's never far from his display.
So, I mean, looking at the weather, it looks as though that cloud's just staying away, and it's kind of been sat there for a while, so I think I'll probably get a full display. Certainly if it stays like this, I'll do a full, which will be nice.
News of the great weather makes its way to Exeter and the Red Arrows Circus.
So I'm actually just on Twitter now and just received a message from Red 10 following his Twitter stream, and he sent us a picture of blue skies over Bournemouth, which is quite a stark difference to the weather that we've got over here. So boys will take off from here, and fingers crossed for the display this afternoon.
After the anticlimax of 4 cancelled displays and the boredom of 2 days of being grounded, it looks like the skies will once again be painted red, white and blue. The Reds heading for Bournemouth signifies an hour until Johnny's Typhoon display. Back at the airport, he's running through the final checks for his all-important spectacular finale.
Running through the checklist. TAF, weather's going to be the biggie, I think, for today. So happy with what they've forecast, although it seems to be differing slightly. Datum essentially is large hotel, seafront, day-glow markers marked between the piers, so happy with that. It's going to be a right-hand display, notionally with a west-hand hold running in. Height restriction is going to be down to 100 feet, albeit there are yachts with masts up to 150, so just playing that one sensibly. Emergency considerations are standard. If I take a bird, it will be notionally to come back into Bournemouth.
At coastal displays, the risk of a bird strike is very real. Not only would it immediately end the display, but it could have more catastrophic consequences. All the prep is done. The only element Johnny doesn't have any control over is the weather. It will decide which type of display he can perform. As it stands, the skies are clear, and everything is pointing towards his full, dynamic Typhoon display. Not once to waste a blue sky opportunity, the Reds are pulling out all the stops. It's their first display in almost a week, and it's also the all-singing, all-dancing full display. Clear visibility and lack of cloud means the public get to marvel at high-level display moves, like the champagne split and the breathtaking Harpen spear. With this display ending their run of bad luck, there's one Red Arrow breathing a sigh of relief. The boss, David Montenegro, Red 1.
As soon as we got into the Bournemouth area, it was absolutely blue sky, gin clear, so we got a full show in. Any form of aviation is a good thing in this team, so yeah, it's been a good day. Much better than the last 2 days where we were completely weathered out.
At most air festivals, the Reds would be closing the day's events. But here in Bournemouth,
Soon 42, clear for takeoff, the wind 230 degrees, 14 knots.
that job is being left to Johnny in the mighty Typhoon. And it doesn't start well. The weather has not read the script. The clouds are back. Johnny has no option but to go for the less dynamic rolling display. Running at 8 minutes, Johnny's carefully engineered display is packed with high G turns and technically advanced maneuvers. But it's not his full display, and all his moves have to remain below the cloud base to ensure he keeps the visual references needed to perform safely. He would have loved to have wowed the crowds with a full display. And back on the ground, it's hard to hide his feelings.
Yeah, ended up doing a rolling, which was a little bit disappointing. I mean, it's quite nasty over towards the west actually, but I mean, it's okay. It was alright, quite a cheeky little breeze. Not my finest performance, but it'll do. So I kind of spent all afternoon roasting in the sun thinking I was going to get a full, and then it was a flat. So that's one of those things. And yeah, just do a better one tomorrow.
Johnny's high standards make him his own worst critic. But with 2 days still to go, there's plenty of time for him to push both himself and his Typhoon to the limit. The great British public are packed into Bournemouth, all ready for another day of the Air Festival. Their expectations are high. With the coastal display, the beach isn't the only place teeming with avid spectators. Out in the bay sits over 1,000 boats, both military and civilian, all jostling for the perfect view.
Let's go.
But before anyone thinks of flying, Senior Engineering Officer Bryn Kirby and Johnny have to deal with a bird strike of a very different kind. Image is everything, even when you are asked to go from a £60 million jet to a family-sized saloon car. En route to the car wash, Johnny has time to reflect on a busy day of displays. One in Dawlish, near his hometown, and closing the show in Bournemouth.
No, I think today should be fine. Again, there's just that risk of weather coming in a little bit later, around about display time. So we'll see. I don't think it won't be horrendous, but you know, hopefully the clouds will stay away. I think Dawlish will certainly be nice this morning for us.
The guys are doing such a good job. It's given Bryn an idea.
They do a good job on the jet, actually.
See if they're free.
Yeah.
With a clean set of wheels, the boys head for the airport. Joining the Reds and Johnny at the Air Festival this weekend is the Chinook display team. Made up of a crew of 3, they are headed up by display pilot Flight Lieutenant Brett Jones.
So we're off to the airport. It'll be the 2 air shows today. So we've got Bournemouth initially, and then we'll be back to Bournemouth Airport for a refuel, and then it's off to Shoreham. We've been quite lucky. We've done quite a lot of overseas ones, so we've got used to it. The communication levels just within the crew just picks up. We leave a bit of a buffer on our minimum heights as well, because it's a bit harder to judge the height as you're coming over the water. Shoreham is another one. That one will pose another challenge because it's a bit tighter than our original ones, and there's quite a few no overflight. So we'll have to adapt the display to remain within those confines. So yeah, there's 2 distinct separate challenges today, but it should make the day interesting.
If 2 displays weren't enough, the BBMF have trumped them all.
Hello Ian, it's Jez Attwood from the BBMF, how are you?
With 3 shows to pack into the day, Jez and squadron leader Dunk Mason get in early with air traffic control.
Perfect, see you, bye. This one's a little bit more complicated today because we fly the display at Bournemouth and then we're going down to Shoreham for a display down there, and then come back and then get some fuel on the aeroplanes to go to Dawlish. So if I can make that transit from Bournemouth down to Shoreham really easy by talking to the air traffic controllers, so the first thing they hear from us is me on the phone now rather than just in the air, it'll just make it a lot easier, save some fuel and save a bit of time as well. So if we talk to Shoreham yet?
No, I haven't spoken to them yet. I'll speak to them.
So 14:55 is a takeoff, isn't it?
Yep.
Thankfully for Jez, crosswinds are down, and it's looking good for his first public Spitfire display.
It looks like we're on the easterly runway.
All this pre-planning ensures the pilots are ready to deal with almost any eventuality. And whilst they put their plans in motion, their team of skilled engineers see to it that the aircraft are ready to amaze. With such a busy day ahead, the ground crews have their work cut out, not least of all the Typhoon team. With 2 displays so close together, Johnny is not leaving anything to chance and has opted to use both jets. The engineers swing into early action, which is just as well.
All we're going to do, we're just going to crack the canopies open, let a bit of get a bit of airflow in there after it's sat for all night. Open the canopy.
The canopy is jammed. Occasionally, the hydraulic pressure needed to open the canopy drops when the aircraft has been standing overnight. The easiest way to top it back up is with a simple hand pump.
Normally, hydraulic pressure is only supplied by the engines. Of course, we can't run those just to open the lid.
Once the hydraulic pressure is increased, the canopy should open. but it doesn't want to cooperate. The team have only 60 minutes until the display at Dawlish. They need to find a solution, and fast.
Hi there, it's Johnny down with the Typhoon display down at Bournemouth. How you doing?
Inside, Johnny is unaware of the problems with the jet and is continuing to make the final touches to his contingency plan for Dawlish.
I just wanted to double check. Our ops should have booked Bryce for the period that I'm going to be flying this afternoon. Can you just confirm whether that's still the case and any pertinent stuff going on?
In case of an emergency during a display, the pilots need to have a backup airfield that they can land at. In Johnny's case, this would be Bryce Norton.
Cool, cheers, thank you. Bye.
Flight and contingency planning in place, all Johnny needs now is an aircraft he can fly.
We think one of the micro switches will be just out, a little bit of adjustment. Problem is we need to get inside to adjust it, so it'll work, hopefully.
With no access to the micro switch, the team are trying some unusual techniques to gain entry. Maybe all you need is the magical touch.
Who's watched Happy Days before? Fixed. She's never going to live this down, am I? No, not really. I'm going home.
Time is now the enemy. All hands are needed to get the switch fixed.
We've adjusted a micro switch, so now hopefully it'll open and close as is, so Johnny can go flying. So, job done.
Vital final checks done. It's over to Johnny. All that's left is to go and dazzle the crowds at Dawlish with some high-energy display moves in this slick-looking jet. The Typhoon's striking color scheme mimics that of a hurricane used during the Battle of Britain and is a reminder of those that lost their lives 75 years ago. It's no surprise that it turns heads wherever it goes, including that of the Chinook's display pilot, Brett.
I've been lucky enough to go at one. I've got a friend up at Coningsby, and he happened to be going on a sortie in the two-seater aircraft. So I managed to go up. We did a bit of high-speed flight over the water. So yeah, it was amazing experience. But I'm still biased. I love the Chinook, to be honest. Having flown it in loads of different environments and seeing what it can do on the display, you know, you can have an immense amount of fun in that thing. So yeah, it was good to experience, but no, I wouldn't change it for anything.
Brett isn't the only one showing his love for the Chinook. His co-pilot Gordo has some fond memories of flying in this particular aircraft.
This was the aircraft we had in Kabul for 3 months with us, probably the most reliable aircraft we had at the time. So it's strong in our hearts. 980, or also known as the Whip, as we used to call it. But this will be the first time it's going to be put through its display paces, so we'll see how it handles, see if it becomes a new favourite.
A short 70-mile hop from Bournemouth Airport is the small Devonshire town of Dawlish. With its picturesque bay and dramatic coastline, it makes for the perfect display location. Amongst the 80,000-strong crowds are Johnny's parents, who couldn't resist the chance to see their son perform above home turf.
You think of him as that little boy playing with those toy planes about 25 years ago, and there he is flying a Typhoon. So for us, it's a bit surreal sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just fantastic to see him achieving his life's ambition. So.
Yeah, and just doing something he really loves to do.
And he does love it, doesn't it? Every second of it.
Yeah.
Johnny begins his display by passing over the headland at 100 feet, flying at nearly 460 miles per hour. The Typhoon's twin engines can produce 20,000 pounds of thrust each, allowing the aircraft to go from brakes off to Mach 1.5 in 90 seconds. After a series of impressive turns and rolls, Johnny engages in a high-speed pass along the crowd line, accelerating from 170 miles per hour to over 600 in just 20 seconds. At the end of this high-speed run, Johnny enters a 9G turn, the limit for both himself and the aircraft. To understand what this feels like, we go back inside the cockpit as Johnny demonstrates the extreme capabilities of this aircraft. Johnny has the jet at 600 miles per hour. Next, he puts the jet into idle and pulls back hard, rolling the jet into a dramatic 9G turn. That's 9 times the force of gravity. Lasting for 16 seconds, the 9G makes his body weigh that of a Formula One car. And both Johnny and the G-suit have to work hard to keep the blood from draining away from his head into his legs. Johnny cannot rely on the G-suit alone to combat gravity. He must tense all his muscles to further restrict the blood flow to his legs, lowering his risk of blacking out. One full display down, but the big finish over Bournemouth is still to go for Johnny. Meanwhile, at the other end of the airfield, the Chinooks are gearing up for their own show at Bournemouth. But moments before they're due to take off, there appears to be a problem.
Hello, Jez Attridge from the Battle of Britain Eurofighter. How are you? Yeah, I'll call you back. Thank you. Dunk. Shoreham have had an accident.
That message has been an aircraft crash at Shoreham. So we don't think Shoreham's going to go ahead post the display. So we're still on time to Bournemouth. We're going to go do Bournemouth, and then after that we'll land on and then find out what's happening. Okay. So yeah, we should have more news when we get back. All right. Okay. We'll see you in a bit.
Hello there, it's Dunk Mason from BBMF. Hi there, I'm trying to get hold of Rod just to get a brief for the display today. Is there any way of getting hold of him at the moment?
So there's been some kind of incident down at Shoreham. We're not sure what it is, but obviously they'll be tied up with whatever this is right now.
Okay, that's fine. That's all I need to know. Okay, bye. I think we'll just have to wait on that one. I don't know whether they will restart the display or not.
Unaware of the severity of the situation at Shoreham, Jez has no option but to turn his mind to the job in hand. His first public display in a Spitfire.
A little bit of trepidation, only because it's a big show, you know, and there's been an accident today already over at Shoreham, unfortunately, so there's, you know, it just shows you this is, there's an element of risk to it, but, you know, I'm excited. I think it's going to be really good. It's a lovely day for it, and let's hope the wind stays where it is.
With the thunderous roar of the Merlin engine and an excited crowd of spectators to wave him off, Jez is soon in his element. But getting to this moment has not been a walk in the park. It has taken 3,800 hours of intense fast jet flying and 32 hours in the hurricane for Jez to finally fulfill his childhood dream. This graceful display is a sobering reminder of the sacrifice many young men gave 75 years ago over these very shorelines during the Battle of Britain. The moment has certainly not been lost on the station commander.
It's the Spitfire smile. It was epic. It was really, really good. Really good. There's an awesome poem by a guy called John Gillespie McGee, which just, it grabs all of this Spitfire flying. It's just unbelievable. And you just go up there, I mean, look at the cloud today, it's just perfect. It's a Battle of Britain day, but it gives you an insight into what those people did, but only an insight. It's just tremendous though. What an honour. It's great.
Sadly for Jez, this excitement will be short-lived, as news is filtering through from Shoreham.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll see you back there. Yep. Cheers. Yeah, as we expect, that's us done. All right. I think with everything kicking off, whether they plan to do an air show the second day, I don't know.
With further displays at Shoreham cancelled for the day, the teams have no choice but to put their aircraft to bed.
We're not going to fuel the aircraft because we don't know the plan tomorrow. So at the moment, the guys are just going to service it. We'll make sure everything's A-OK, and fingers crossed the person involved, or the people involved are OK at Shoreham. But yeah.
Everyone's wondering what's gone on at Shoreham. From the sound of things, you know, a very bad accident down there, and our thoughts are with the people over at Shoreham and the organisers, the people on the ground. Yeah.
The shock of the day's events has everyone in a reflective mood. Not least of all, Johnny. On this, the penultimate show before Johnny closes Bournemouth tomorrow, it's time to reflect.
Obviously very sad news about what's happened in Shoreham. Quite sort of sobering. You do think about those that have been involved.
Typhoon 42 is ready, taxi. Typhoon 42 taxi to November from runway 08, QNH 1011.
Typhoon 42, you're clear for takeoff right, has a wind 1406.
I've got to go fly displaying out Bournemouth, so you know, it will be, as sad as it is, it will just have to be put behind me. It just sort of puts it into context, I guess, just how potentially dangerous it can be. You've got what appears to be hugely glamorous on the outside can very quickly go the other way. And you do always at the back of your mind sort of have that awareness of risk. It's important to remember that those risks are there and that you don't ever become complacent.
Day 3 at Bournemouth, and in true British style, the heavens have opened. If this weather persists, all our teams and their display plans will be thwarted. Johnny will not get to close the festival as planned. But British holidaymakers are an optimistic breed. Determined to keep his spirits up, Johnny's eyes are on the skies.
Morning. Weather again doing its thing, I guess. It's been like this all weekend, although obviously this is a little bit worse, but luckily I think having got the full in yesterday, I think looking at the forecast we should still get something in this afternoon. It's forecast to brighten up, so I think even if I don't get the full in, hopefully get the rolling in, but for the time being I'm just going to head down to the PR trailer and see what's going on.
Johnny's not the only one hoping for a break in the weather. The Chinook's pilot, Brett, is also remaining positive on this damp Sunday morning.
I'm hoping the weather's going to improve. I mean, yesterday was such a good day with the weather, so fingers crossed, but you never know if another rain shower is going to hit us. So yeah, I'm hoping it's still remaining clear.
But the British weather is fickle, and somehow the clouds part. Amazingly, the last day of the Airfest starts on time. First up of the RAF's teams is the Chinook, turning heads again with their elephant of the skies, strutting its stuff. The crowds aren't the only ones being lifted by the sight of blue skies. It has been largely a dreary week for the Red Arrows.
Quite frustrating when we put a lot of effort into training throughout the winter, and we have 84 public displays this year, and to lose 6 of them, doing a quick bit of maths, 6 of them this week is very frustrating. Obviously that's 11 displays we've lost this year now to weather, so a really bad reddish summer.
Bournemouth is bathed in sunshine. The crowds can't wait for an afternoon of world-class flying. And Typhoon Johnny is ready, if he can keep his all-important energy levels where they need to be.
Now, by the end of a busy weekend, it can get quite tiring. It does take its toll, and certainly you do notice that the fourth display, you know, I'm working harder than I would, say, be on the first. So you do need to watch out for that fatigue, something from a G tolerance point of view, but that's where the kit really comes into its own. All-in-one trousers to provide that G protection, and the jacket as well that inflates to sort of compress your chest, and then you get an overpressure in the mask as well. Sort of inflates you from the inside, basically. You know, it all helps just to make life that little bit easier.
During such a demanding season, the RAF display pilots cannot rely on just their aerobatic skills and years of flying to succeed. Pilots are given guidance throughout training, but once they become operational, the onus is on them to keep their fitness levels up. Johnny is no exception, and during display season, he stepped up his grueling training schedule.
When you're doing 5 displays over the course of a weekend, week in, week out, I just didn't want to get to a point where I'm starting to feel just overall fatigued.
The reason Johnny needs to stay so fit is that almost all his display turns produce at least 6G. Both his physical fitness and his special G-suit are vital to combat the effects.
Bingo 3. Release into wind. I'm back on it. Bingo 3.
But the most uncomfortable maneuver of the display comes off the back of an incredibly prolonged 9G turn. Johnny inverts the jet and pushes it into an eye-popping turn. To fully understand the effects of this, we go inside the cockpit with Johnny. As Johnny pulls out of the 9G turn, he will be on the verge of blacking out, if not for the G-suit, which is helping his body cope. In a matter of seconds, as he inverts the jet and pushes it into an outside turn, Johnny goes from experiencing 9G to -3, an unbelievable swing. In negative gravity, his G-suit has no effect. All the time, this negative G is forcing blood into his head and pulling his body tight against the harness. During this 10-second maneuver, Johnny's head is filling with more and more blood. Even though painful, Johnny has to resist the temptation to pull out early, disrupting the display sequence. This season has given Johnny the display bug. But where could he possibly challenge his skills next? Every year the Red Arrows take on 2 or 3 new recruits. Maybe next year one of those iconic red suits may find its way into the hands of Johnny Down.
For my own sort of career progression, I don't see how I could ever go any further than that or top that.
But for now, like the many thousands on the ground, he can only admire them from afar.
The Reds are such an institution, they're such an iconic team. You just bump into anyone around the air show and they have always, at some point, they've gone to try and see the Reds. You know, the little kids walking around in the red flying suits, it just gets passed from generation to generation. Everyone grows up with the Reds. They are just a symbol of, you know, best of British. It would be incredible.
All of Johnny's training, sacrifice and dedication have led to this moment. It's his time. Time to close the biggest public air show in Britain.
Right, good afternoon, Typhoon 4-2 for start, Sierra copy 1 POV.
Typhoon 4-2, Bournemouth, start approved. Typhoon 4-2, line up runway 26.
Line up 26, Typhoon 4-2.
Typhoon 4-2, left turn, clear for takeoff, wind 23013.
Left takeoff, Typhoon 4-2.
Typhoon at the end.
It's outstanding.
Love it. I love heavy metal.
You can really feel the sound inside of you. Yeah, it's really, really good. Just wanted it to go faster so it'd make more noise, that was all.
I'm sure it can probably go faster still, but you could just hear it and feel it in your chest as it flew past, and the noise and everything. So incredible.
Complete admiration for the people who fly those.
I think it would be fun, but it'd probably make me feel a bit queasy. There has to be brave, because I wouldn't do that.
Basically a fantastic end to the show.
Yeah.
He's done it. Johnny's impressed the Bournemouth crowds. Over the course of this series, we've flown with the mighty Red Arrows as they braved low cloud to make it to Buckingham Palace for the Queen's birthday flypast.
That was probably the best thing I've ever done in my entire life.
We've seen what it takes to keep the old warbirds in the sky with the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight as they strive to put on a show for the World War II veterans.
Makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
It was great, all 18 aircraft airborne, so I couldn't be happier.
And they pulled off a spectacular Spitfire Typhoon synchro display, all to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Britain. We've trained with the Chinook team above and below water.
Obviously, if this happened over Blackpool, we'd be panicking a little bit more.
And we've seen the physical stresses exerted on a Typhoon display pilot up close.
And around the corner, there's -3.
We've been inside the bubble with the RAF's elite, witnessed their highs and lows during the busy display season, and caught a glimpse into their unique world to find out what it takes to be Britain's ultimate pilots.
We're staying in Bournemouth next. They face Southampton earlier. Match of the Day 2 has the best of the action, while over on BBC 3, Michael Myers just won't give Jamie Lee Curtis a break in Halloween Resurrection.